Hey everybody, welcome aboard. Psychedelic here. Today I got an update video for you. This is going to be the rest of my Des Moines finds I'm going to share. I shared the singles in the last update, whenever that was, and I got like 7 LPs and quite the variety this time. Typically when I do these update videos, I like to, kind of submerge myself into most of these records, but there's a couple I haven't actually done that with yet. Time lately has just been kind of cut short with other things in mind, and life's been a little busy as well, and I have another vinyl update I could do just from local finds. It's just been kind of a busy time buying things and just not enough time, and I just gotta kind of stretch that timeline out so I can get these listening sessions in. I still think I can do pretty well talking about these, so let's sink in. So this first one, and I kind of arranged them by different shops and places I went to. Went to like 2 different shops in town, and then there was one I just learned about through the marketplace that he was just selling in the back of his garage, kind of turning it into like a small sort of shop of sorts, and pretty low-key place, but it was on the marketplace. It looked pretty interesting, some of the titles I was seeing, so definitely left a few things behind. They were definitely out of my range, but I'll talk about them when we get there. But this first one, I dropped into Rogue Planet Music. Really like that shop. I mean, it's pretty small, but oftentimes they do have kind of what I'm looking for, and they do have like a psych, garage, and other genre section. And this is one I almost overlooked. It was like one of the very last things I found in the shop. And going with this record, I would certainly love to have an original copy. When that day comes, this will suffice for now. And that is The Art of Lovin'. They're originally on Mainstream. And yes, this is the audio clarity Russian bootleg here. You can only play this at 45 RPM, which I don't really understand what that's about. Why couldn't it just be the normal speed? Who knows? So, obviously it doesn't come with liner notes, nothing fancy, it's a boot. And this is really one of the very last original Mainstream copies I want to track down sometime down the road. This one and the Superfine Dandelion are like the top 2 originals I want to pick up, and I can live without the Growing Concern. I'm pretty happy with the reissue, but if it ever happens to pop up, locally or something, I'll take chances on it. But yeah, this is great. A little dusty yet. Putting back in the sleeve. This was actually used when I bought it, so got it for a pretty good price. 15 bucks I think. So yeah, sounds really good though, regardless, and that's the most important thing. Don't know what the source is from, but this is great, man. Some people kind of list this as Bosstown psych pop, but I think they were just outside of Boston. And it's not necessarily a Bosstown sound kind of record, but it's from that region, of course, and it very much falls into the same traps as like The Growing Concern or The Love Exchange, Disciple, all those sorts of bands. Very much male-female harmonies going on in sort of like a late period kind of folk pop trajectory, but kind of seeping into the counterculture scenes a little bit. Some great rippling fuzz guitar in some spots too. It's not prominent in here, but it's very good when that happens. But there's some great tracks on here. Daily Prayer. I listened to that again on vinyl, and it's like, wow, that's my favorite cut. Everything about that track I love. I just love the lyrics, the very optimistic, youthful kind of lyrics. They also do Hang On to a Dream, of course, Tim Hardin, which might be my weakest cut on here for me. But Take a Ride, kind of that, back and forth swaying harmonies, and Paul's Circus opens up really well. State of Mind, this is just very much a top, for me, a top vocal-driven harmonic pop psych record that I look for. Love my harmonies, man, when they're good. So, love this one. And then stopped into, or else you can call it ZZZ, Records. It paid $25 for this, and this is Lost Nation, Paradise Lost. This is one I've been trying to track down for a long time. You know, if I ever came across it in the shops, and it's an original here on Rare Earth. This came out in 1970, but still very much lingering on that, you know, late 60s, 69 kind of period flavor going on. Love that back shot. And this is, I remember, I think Ron showed this years ago, Hogsy Report, and I remember how much I think he liked this one, or someone did. They praised it so much so that I was convinced, like, there's a lot of hype behind this. Are they really selling this to me? Is it really that good? And, you know, I might have sampled it years ago. Couldn't really remember what it sounded like. But, you know, with a vinyl experience, it hits differently. And wow, this record was so good. You know, if I had to make an easy comparison or reference point, it very much sounds like a heavier, hard rock driven Vanilla Fudge. And they're already kind of heavy, but it takes it in a little more like energetic space. A little bit like SRC too, which kind of makes sense because this band was from Detroit area. Very much in that light, you know, if you love SRC, that kind of heavier side, you know, with a little progadelic edge to it, this has got some good jams, man. Check out the track She'll Take You. That was the one I was like, okay, this is a 4 out of 5 star record so far, but it might take it to the next level, I don't know. Opens up with Tall Ivory Castle, and then right after that, Rome. 2 perfect openers. One of the chord changes in Rome reminds me of that first track on the Rain Ghost album, Travels of Blue Paradox. It's got that same very kind of mystical chord changes going on. Not that they sound similar, but it's the same chords, which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah, don't let the prog tag scare you. This is actually really energetically progressive in a good way. It's a very, very hard rocking record. You know, might be the toughest one to find next to The Gospel According to Zeus. So this is pretty fiery stuff, man. I still think you can find this between like 20 to 40 bucks, depending on condition. Highly recommend this one. The full album is on YouTube, so check her out. This is one I have not spun yet, but I had to, kind of refresh my memory how this sounded. But out of all of the blue collar rock, as I like to call it, you know, sort of that Midwestern classic rock, I was just, flipping through constantly at the shop. Not that it's a bad shop. I mean, it's Iowa. Come on. I was really surprised to see this one amidst all of that. And this is The Full Circle by Forest. This is their sophomore LP. Originally came out on Harvest. Cool gatefold shot there. I wasn't really hunting this one down, but when I saw it, I was like, I'll probably never see this for a while again. This is an old reissue on Timeless. I think it came out in like sometime in the 2000s. I like the textured sleeve. It's got a really soft felt kind of texture to it. With Forest, they kind of sound very naive with their first record. Sound like they're trying to warm up to something bigger. And I think this one is kind of the fan favorite of the two, if I had to, make a statement on that. At least it appears that way to me online. And I kind of agree. This one sounds a little more matured, a little more comfortable in the studio. And, projecting some different themes into the mix as well, with some more mandolin, steel guitar. They bring in harmonica, which you wouldn't think would work, but it's a flavor in the blend here. And very much, progressive folk, tinges of psych folk, you could say. It's just very much that medieval, maybe a little bit of pagan folk in here. Just very middle-aged, medieval kind of folk remnants on here, coming from like a minstrel mindset of sorts. And it's very good. I haven't listened to this in a long time, so it kind of refreshed my memory on this. And I would say tracks to check out at Graveyard was really good, as well as what was the other one? To Julie, I think it was. Yeah, some of the songs kind of blend together for me, but if you like, stuff like Comus, First Utterance, or, this one's not as freaky as that, but it's kind of in that same world, very exploratory. So yeah, I really couldn't tell you how the vinyl sounds on this, but with Timeless, I would think the sound is timeless. Looks like a label that's semi-legit. And that's all we would get from Forest. This is their second and final record here, so really glad to scoop this up. So on to the next three here. We got, I got these from a Facebook Marketplace listing. I forget the fella's name, but he had some great stock in there. A lot of great titles, the grades kind of varied as far as conditions go, but he's kind of starting out small. Like I said, it was just in the backyard in his garage, but it was kind of set up really pretty well, kind of an independent place. Prices were pretty good as well. I almost left this behind, but I had never seen a copy of this in person. Thankfully, the disc is way better, but this one definitely was submerged in a fish tank or something. But yeah, we got Mars Bonfire here on Uni with some horrible water damage on the bottom, unfortunately. But the record it survived, it dried off, so. This is a Uni title that I probably talked about in my Uni video, my Uni ranking. I still wouldn't put it in the top 10. However, this one was really good on revisiting this. Mars Bonfire, obviously, he was the songwriter between a lot of Steppenwolf songs. He was an ex-member of the Sparrows when they first started out. Wrote some songs for him, did some publishing rights, and to this day he's making bank on Born to Be Wild, man. And of course, there's some Steppenwolf tracks that would later become, like Ride With Me Baby, Tenderness, Night Times for You, closing track. And this one very much sounds like a demo LP. It's like they just kind of threw all these songs in a blender. And I don't know who the musicians are on this one. It doesn't really indicate anything on Discogs or anything. It doesn't have like the same energy as Steppenwolf. Obviously Born to Be Wild, it's a very punchy track, and this one doesn't sound as punchy. It's kind of more low-key. Just a different vision of what that track is, but maybe even a little more psychedelic in spots too. With some of these tracks here, all written by him. Tracks like Sad Eyes and a few others kind of gets a little ballady, but the rest are, I think the remainder of side 2 with Christina's Arms up until the end really rocks out. It's really good, actually. It's got some organ leads, it's got some cool fuzz breaks. Definitely some like single-worthy kind of tracks. It almost sounds like a bunch of B-sides, really, or A-sides, whatever your preference is there. But overall, nothing spectacular. I wouldn't say it's like essential unless you're absolutely looking into, Mars Bonfire. I mean, that name too. One of the best stage names of like the late 60s, man. And then this would later be reissued on Columbia with like a couple different tracks. So, considering the condition, we got a good deal on this, so. Got that one, and then I've been looking for this one. Finally found a copy. I posted this today on Instagram. This is, I think you pronounce his name, Tony Kosinec. Processes. This is his first album here on Columbia. Unipack. We all love them, don't we? Lyrics inside. Just looking at the presentation, kind of looks like your typical singer-songwriter, maybe some Wrecking Crew action going on. This guy's actually backed up by Lighthouse, the Canadian group. I think it's got like Skip in the band, Skip Pochip, whatever his name is, Procop. I think he was in the Poppers too, right? And then lead guitar, Ralph Cole. Definitely some like Canadian folks behind this, but this was actually recorded in like New York City. And just by listening to it, I didn't know where this was recorded exactly, because he was actually a Toronto native. I don't think he was born there. I think he was born in like England or something, but spent most of his life in Toronto. But just listening to it, I thought, man, this sounds really New York City, kind of like wintertime-esque, some of these songs on here. And to my, looking it up and researching, I was like, wow, this really does sound East Coast. Makes sense, because it was recorded there. And it's almost like a loose concept going on here. I'm not really sure. I'm not really picking up what it is exactly. I'm not too heavily into like lyrics, but just the way it kind of continuously flows along. This is really good the more I listen to it. I was pretty familiar with some tracks like Summer Spring. It's got some cool fuzz breaks going on, nice vocals. It's got a great voice. And for most of the writing on here and the arrangements, the conducting on here is very tight and very mature. This one kind of impressed me. So for highlights, Summer Spring, and then Mystic 50s was another great one. And then I think he released a single called Simple Emotion. Kind of reminds me of like a little bit of like Sagittarius in some spots with the way the production's going, and that the fact it's on Columbia, it's got that kind of Columbia engineering magic going on. And you can pick this up for like $5-10 all day. And he did have a follow-up record and maybe a couple others. And I think he had like a minor hit in '73, I read. So definitely better than your typical singer-songwriter. This has got some chops. It's pretty sophisticated writing here. And I think this record just kind of sank into obscurity, Of course, it's got the cutout there. Nice and fresh. And then, let's see, the next two here, got one more from that place. Surprised to see this there. This is a reissue here, Vinyl Lovers of Mutantes. This is their second LP. Not really crazy about hunting down originals of this, I mean, I'm just going the reissue route because, how often are you going to spot like VG Plus copies of Brazilian copies of this and not paying like, $400 or whatever it is. But I'm pretty happy with this reissue. It's got a very glossy cover, as you can tell. And I hadn't listened to this in quite a while. It's been a few years maybe, and wow. I can't believe how much this rocked, It's got a lot more rock orientation going on. And to me, the whole musical picture or outlook, it's very much like a scrapbook. It's just like they kind of scrapped all these sounds and kind of, shoved them in a blender and kind of like spit them out. I mean, the Brazilian scene is pretty zany and wicked, man. It's got a lot of bizarre qualities to it. Unlike, your typical American psych where it's just kind of bland, straightforward, typically, Not really, but, kind of more focused on like the blues, rock and stuff. And down in Brazil, they are just totally original when it comes to, the Tropicalia and the salsa scenes and whatever else there is out there. And I just really haven't dove into too many Brazilian titles. I'm just a little afraid, where it's going to lead me, but it's kind of a challenging listen at times, for me at least. I mean, I can take some challenging listens, but for me, I mean, this one really surprised me. I'm going to have to look into like some other bands around this era. I have their first album, and I like their third. I don't have that one yet. Otherwise, that's kind of where I stopped with Mutantes, but this was really impressive on first listen, so going to post that when I get around to it. And then this final one, this is one I have not spun yet either. And this is one I found at the Antique Mall. Typically always come out empty-handed there, but this is where I picked up those 45s as well. And this is a original, well, not original, but it's an early press of Nektar, Journey to the Center of the Eye. This is like a sort of a rock opera of sorts, if I remember right. I had not listened to this yet, and I hadn't listened to this in a long time. I kind of sampled it over the years, but I do remember liking it enough to, wanting to seek a copy out. German-based group. So, you know, it's on the Bellefonds, or what is it called? Maxilis? I think I have another record on that label. I have Crocodile. Get Up Early in the Morning, or whatever it's called. But yeah, man, this is pretty good space rock from what I recall. Sorry, I'm not here to report on how it sounds or anything, but I do remember this rocking out pretty heavily, and for a debut record, I think it's came out in like 71. I think this is a 73 or 75 press. Still pretty early. You know, you just never see it, so at least I never do around here. So this is just a kind of cool piece to pick up on. Yeah, that's all I got. Just gonna kind of end it on that short note. But yeah, like I said, I do have another batch of records to even share for another update pretty soon. But like I said, time's kind of slipped away. I need to find some time to kind of, you know, because my weekends have been kind of busy, and that's where I get a lot of listening time in too. And I just need to spend some time with stuff I picked up. I even picked up some stuff today. Anyways, that's all I got. So take care. Let me know what you think of these finds, and we'll see you down the road.